Welcome to All Grown Up Now, Tales of a Checkered Past. I'm Kenneth D. King, podcasting from my studio near Union Square in New York City. This podcast is an evolution of the tale, All Grown Up Now, A Friendship in 3 Acts. This is Season 2, and it's called Tales of a Checkered Past. It's a collection of short stories from my salad days on up to the present. In each podcast, another self-contained story will be presented. These podcasts will be broadcast bi-weekly, so you get 2 a month. Enjoy. For episode 63, I asked the question, how do you define success? While teaching at FIT, sometimes I get into conversations with my students that, while off topic, I hope are useful to them. One topic I talk about is success. What defines it? What are the markers? Who defines it? Is it money? Is it media? Celebrities wearing your creations? This story is about a personal best moment for me. It doesn't revolve around the typical markers of success. It's more subtle. In the mid-'80s, when I was starting my business, I took a jewelry making class at City College in San Francisco. My professor was a man named Roger Baird. I learned quite a bit from him, and it was his sister Brenda who became my agent. She was the one who got my work into the posh LA store. One thing Roger talked about was process, making the process so seamless that it was invisible. His reasoning was that if you perfect the craft, if you are a master of your materials, everything you create would have to be evaluated on aesthetics alone. The observer, the patron, or the client couldn't fault the creation in terms of execution. If the execution was so polished that it was invisible, the creation wouldn't look like a fluke. You were the master of your materials. This was the exact opposite of another professor I had at the same school who taught painting. The painting professor was of the school of don't teach technique, let the spontaneous creativity flow. In that class, whenever I would ask about technique, like, what are the different brushes and what are they for? How do you mix the paint? He would get irritated and just shout, "Paint! Just paint!" I hated him. By contrast, in Roger's class, I got technique in spades. Roger delighted in showing me all sorts of tips and tricks to help me make my work better. In mid-1986, at the Legion of Honor Museum in San Francisco, a traveling exhibit came through. It was the Gulbenkian collection of Art Nouveau jewels by the designer René Lalique. Roger took me aside one day in class and insisted I go see the exhibit, assigned it actually. So, of course, I went. Now, for those who haven't seen these magnificent jewels, if you ever have a chance to see them in person, go. In the galleries where they were displayed, I had an epiphany. It looked as if heaven opened up and these amazing jewels dropped out. Along with the fantastical designs, they were, in a word, perfect. Absolutely perfect. So perfect, I was moved to tears a number of times. It was thrilling to see. In this exhibit, after seeing beauty and perfection all around me, I said to myself, I want to make things like this. I want to make things that one day will be in cases in museums, being viewed, and influencing people like these pieces influence me. It fueled my ambition for the kinds of pieces I wanted to create. Back in class, Roger and I talked about the technical brilliance behind these jewels. He explained about the different processes used, as well as the practical considerations that went into making some of the iconic pieces. For example, the dragonfly brooch. I'd seen this famous piece many times in photos, but in person it was staggering. In the photos it looked tiny, but in person I saw that it had a wingspan of 11 inches. It was designed to be worn on stage as a sort of breastplate, reportedly for the famous actress Sarah Bernhardt. But the wings, which were as delicate as a real dragonfly's, were also articulated, hinged. This meant they could accommodate the movement of the wearer, not sitting like a solid mass on the chest. The tail was articulated as well. But you didn't see it. The process was invisible. Going forward, that has been my guiding principle in making my work, whatever period I was in. For me, it was all about process, but I wanted to make the process invisible so people would focus on my aesthetics. And I believe that's how I gained my fame. Mindy was the head sales lady who insisted the buyer in the posh LA store take a chance on my work. She saw the work when Brenda brought it in 2 days before Thanksgiving in 1986. She told everyone that, yes, she could sell it. She remarked that it reminded her of the Lalique Jewel exhibit, which had been in LA after it came to San Francisco. In later years, Mindy told me that when I was still selling there, any new designer's work was judged by my standards of finish. I was regarded as the gold standard. It was how I got to sell to all the rich and famous. Fast forward to 2003. There was an exhibit planned for the Legion of Honor Museum called Artwear, Fashion, and Anti-Fashion. While I was still in San Francisco, the curator theorized that my work fit in as art to wear. I said, and say, that I make couture, not art, but she thought otherwise. The DeYoung had one of my hats in their permanent collection, and she thought that might be included. By 2005, I was living in New York. Melissa sent me tickets to the opening of the artwear exhibit at the Legion of Honor. The DeYoung was closed, and the new museum was being built. As an aside, you can still get the catalog on Amazon titled Artwear, Fashion, and Anti-Fashion. Since I was living in New York by then, I couldn't go. But I sent the tickets to my friend Stuart and told him to bring a friend. Since he has one of my jackets, I instructed him to wear it. The day after the exhibit, Stuart called to report on the event. He told me of being mobbed by people who recognized the jacket as one of my works. He told me of Melissa's lecture on the exhibition and noted that she spent proportionally more time discussing my work. He also noted that I had good placement. In a vitrine in the middle of the gallery. You couldn't miss it. He also told me which gallery it was in. And I realized That was the exact same gallery where, all those years ago, I had my epiphany and resolved to make work that would be in museums one day. And now that day had come. The path from there to this moment had many ups and downs. The outcome of that journey looked very different from what I had imagined it would, and the path shaped my career as much as my ambition did. But it happened. I tell this story to my students as an example of defining for oneself what success looks like. There was no money, no calls from the media, no trumpets, just a quiet realization that I had done what I set out to do. As part of their education at FIT, I hope to communicate more than just the technical information they need. Fashion is a career that requires a thick hide. I hope that my experiences can also help them survive and thrive. I have found that some successes are better savored in private. And over time, I've discovered that there is a payoff for sustained effort over that long period of time. Thanks for listening. You can get the audiobook All Grown Up Now on iTunes, Audible, and Amazon, or from my website, allgrownupnow.com. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, and Google Play. If you have any questions, you can reach me through the website, allgrownupnow.com. You can follow me on Instagram at Kenneth D. King, on Facebook at Kenneth D. King Design, or on my main website, kennethdking.com.